You either pay with time or you pay with money. This is derived from something that happened within Booked Out Cleaners that I think you could use as a lesson in business and kind of take away for yourself. So the other day I had someone message me and ask me about joining Booked Out Cleaners, and they just wanted to know a few things about it. So they asked me a few questions and I answered them. And when I told them what the price was, even though the price is clearly displayed along with all the answers I gave this particular person, they're displayed clearly on the page, which told me that they hadn't even bothered to click the link to see it. So I told them all that, and then they said, well, the price is quite high. I don't know if I can join at this price. And I asked a couple of questions. I was like, so it seems like you have a business and you're operating. How's that going? And they go, yeah, it's good. I've got a bunch of regular clients. I'm doing pretty all right with it. I just want to grow and hire staff and learn how to advertise better. And I was like, okay, so, it's about $80 a month. If you're in the program at the moment, it's around $80 a month while we still build it out. And for that price, you get access to the community. You get access to the one-on-one calls or the one-to-many calls with me. You can message me directly for any help at any time. And there's also the classroom with all the different courses on how to start, grow, market, hire, all that stuff. And so for $80, there's a lot of value packed in there. I could charge a lot more money for that. But anyway, this person didn't see the value. So I said, okay, well, $80 a month. If I just help you get one more weekly customer at $150 a week, that's $600 a month. Would you consider the join price worth it? And they were like, but it's just a lot of money. I don't pay for any other software in the business, so this is a big expense for me. And I kind of just left it at that because people with that sort of mindset aren't really fit for business, and it's not a knock on the person. Some people are just wired this way, and it's really hard for them to change. But if you're someone who's scared to spend $80 to further your business, you're probably just not cut out for it. A lot of people go into business thinking that it's just going to be an easy upward trajectory and that sort of journey. But it comes with a lot of uncomfortable situations. It comes with a lot of sacrifices and a lot of that. So, you either pay with time or you pay with money. And here's the thing. So this person is at a point now where their business is doing okay, but that's all it's ever going to do. But they want to grow it to a certain point. Now, we didn't go in depth with that, but I'm assuming they want to grow a team and, hire staff and have a lot more clients. And so the time window to get there is going to be much, much, much longer if she's not in a program like mine, Booked Out Cleaners, right? So she may get there one day, even without my help or anyone else's help, she may get there, but it's going to take her a lot more time. And like me now, it took me 2 years to get to the point where I felt like I had a real business with a real team, real customer base, and I was doing good money. And if I found something like Booked Out Cleaners when I started, I would have jumped on the opportunity. And I know I would have condensed my time down and gotten to where I am now a lot quicker. So in retrospect, I would have much rather have paid with my money instead of time, because now my time is worth a lot more than any amount of money I can really conjure for myself. And so it's going to be the same for this person. They may get there someday, but it could take them 2 years like it did for me, as opposed to maybe 3 to 6 months if you're in a community where this is the main focus, this sort of growth. And it's just a lesson in business that, you can either pay with time or money. And it's the same with your customers. When your customers come back and tell you that your prices are too high, you can't come out and say it, but, they're either paying with time or their money. And I've had doctors tell me that the price was too high. I've had lawyers tell me that. I've had very, very wealthy business owners tell me that. And their time is worth way more than what the cost of a clean is, but they still come back and say that. And the good news about that is if people aren't absolutely gawking at your price, if they're not coming back and saying, wow, that's your prices are high, or my other cleaner was cheaper, or it's out of my budget. If you're not getting that sort of response, you're not charging enough. And so, contradictory to what you may think about that, it's actually a good thing that you hear it. Because the people that charge $30 an hour, do you think they ever hear that their prices are too high? No. You're never going to make money if you don't have customers who feel like your prices are too high. And think about the times where you've done really well in your sales. Think about the times where you've had a hot streak and you've signed like 10 clients in a row in like the span of a couple of weeks. And then think about your worst cold streak where you just got no's constantly. You weren't getting new leads. You weren't getting new customers. Think about those two different situations. Now, on your hot streak, when you were on your hot streak, you weren't getting any pushback. Okay, so you just kept getting more and more motivated to keep doing what you were doing, and you were getting no negative feedback, most likely, and you weren't getting knocked back on your quotes. Whereas on the cold streak, I'm pretty confident to say that, the more no's you get and the more pushback you get, particularly on things like price, because that's what a quote boils down to, you kind of just lose faith and you lose confidence in your own service. And therefore, you lose confidence in your own ability to sell that service. So when you're on a cold streak, it just gets colder and colder because you lose the passion behind it. And it's harder to sell something that you don't truly believe in. It's really easy to get messed up in that headspace when you just keep getting a no constantly over and over again when you're trying to sell something. That's why a lot of people you see in the cleaning business owner Facebook groups, they just, at a certain point, it might only take 2 or 3 people saying that their prices are too high. They think that it's time to bring their prices down. It's like, no, that's when you know you're on the right track. You just have to keep at it, and you just have to keep learning how to handle objections, first of all, but also just keep doing it. Repetition is the key to any success. You need to get better at it, and the only way to get better is to keep doing it. You weren't as good of a cleaner now as you were when you started. You're much better, Same with me. I can clean a lot better than when I started. That's for sure. Same with business. I'm a lot better at sales now than when I started. There is nothing that I am worse at or the same at as when I started. Time and repetition is the key to any success. And so, yeah, you either pay with time or money. And when you kind of realize that when you're selling something, it makes it a lot easier to create your value propositions and to sell it to a customer. But that was just a little anecdote that I wanted to kind of give, just a little interesting story that has a lesson in there. And yeah, you might notice that the sound quality today isn't great, and that's because I'm in Bunbury, which is the principal location of Enhanced Cleaning. It's where I started the business because that's where I'm from. So every couple of weeks I come down to Bunbury from Perth. It's about a 2-hour drive, and I just see all my family because my whole family's still in Bunbury. And yeah, I check in on the business. So I don't have my expensive studio microphone, so the sound quality won't be amazing. Hopefully it's still good enough. And yeah, it's going well down here. We just onboarded a new industrial cleaning client, which is about $150,000 a year, I believe, somewhere in that range. So I was on site last night and the night before, and I'll be there tonight again, just overseeing everything. With big contracts like this, I like to be on the ground, seeing how things go and working through the transition. So their previous cleaners really dropped the ball. It's they did a really, really poor job, and so we've got a lot of work to catch up on. We have to pick up on their slack, but that's why we won the contract in the first place, because these cleaners weren't doing enough. So thanks to them for not doing a good job, and now we've got ourselves a nice big client. We were also told that once they were told that they were no longer needed there and that they were supposed to hand their keys back and stop cleaning the next week, Apparently, on their last clean, they left all the doors unlocked, all the lights on, the alarm disarmed, and they left the keys to the building in the letterbox. Can you imagine that? They were that unhappy about their contract being terminated for their poor work that they did that. How unprofessional and just careless and senseless is that? We're talking about a multi-million dollar, I think, steel fabrication company with lots of expensive equipment on site, and they just did that. I would say it's almost criminal. It's not even, I was going to say criminal negligence, but that's intentionally stupid. So, yeah, that's what we're up against. We're up against some, dare I say, stupid people, because that was a very stupid thing. But anyway, we got a nice new contract. It's going well. It's actually a very easy clean. So, yeah, once we've got everything up to maintenance standard, it's going to be a great little moneymaker for us. And that was one that we got at the awards night. I think I may have talked about this in a previous episode, or maybe even the last episode, where Stacey and I saw that they were going, and it's a company that we've always wanted to kind of get on board because we knew that they go through a lot of different cleanliness because they're not happy. They really hold cleanliness to a high standard there, which is what we love. That's in alignment with our values. And so, yeah, we got them, and it was really cool how we got it. So, yeah, it's going great. And also, in other news, there is a new award mandate that you should be aware of if you employ staff, particularly casual staff, because that's what most of us employ. So this came out about a month ago at this point, and I just forgot to do an episode on it, or not an episode, but just talk about it. So it's very easy for this to slip under the radar, and that's what's kind of happened to a lot of people. But a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, the Fair Work Australia ombudsman, or whatever, I think it was the ombudsman, released a new mandate for the for employers in Australia. So if you have casual employees and they meet a certain criteria, back then, if they were working the same hours every week with little shift variance or no shift variance, that they were entitled to become a part-time or full-time employee. Now, the bar for that is much lower. So if you have casual employees, I recommend just Googling the new Fair Work casual employee to full-time mandate, something along those lines, and you'll see it. It basically means that it's much easier for a casual employee now to say they want full-time or part-time work, and you have to give it to them, which means holiday leave, sick leave that you now have to juggle around and figure out how to do inside your accounting software. It now means that they need to have the same hours every week. So if someone cancels a clean, they cannot have work. I mean, they have to have work now when they couldn't before. And it could be a bit of a nightmare for some people, but that's just something to look out for. And another thing I wanted to talk about, which was, I could have tied it in with the first thing we talked about with, growth and how you pay with either time or money and sometimes health. But I wanted to kind of talk about a new identity, and new priorities and new values. So when we want to do better, basically what we're doing is we're creating a new identity of ourselves. And with a new identity comes new priorities and new tasks and new values, right? So I want to talk about that. And to put it in a kind of different perspective, or give you an example, if you're overweight, your new identity is you but fitter, or you with your high school body, or whatever it may be. And so that new identity has new values and new priorities. So what does that look like? Okay, in the event of, if you're overweight, your new identity is someone who eats right, is someone who doesn't eat things with added sugar, or it could be someone who skips breakfast and does intermittent fasting, right? It could be something like that. So a new identity always has new values and new priorities that you need to bring yourself in alignment with. If you're broke and you want to make money, there's a new identity there. There's the rich me as opposed to the poor me right now. So that rich me has different priorities and different values that I need to bring myself in alignment with, right? So what does that look like? It means watching my spending, cutting down on subscriptions, creating 5 or 6 different bank accounts with different criteria and different labels that we put our weekly paycheck into if we're an employee, and we section out our money like that. It's a really good way to start to bring yourself closer to that ideal you, your ideal you, right? And so in the event of a cleaning business, or in the situation of a cleaning business owner, the new identity is that you want to have a bigger business, right? You want to have a team, you want to have whatever it may be, $1 million turnover. And so you need to look at that identity from beside yourself or in front of yourself and think about what that new person does. Think about what that ideal version of yourself is doing. So if you've got no staff at the moment, if you're just cleaning by yourself, then what priorities and what values and what things do you need to bring yourself in alignment with in order to get to where you want to be? And a few examples I could come up with. Maybe, you need to give yourself bare minimum 2 hours a week of unbothered, uninterrupted time where you can just work on the business. You need to read 1 book a month on the topic of business. You need to join 1 program that's related to growing a business. You need to do more outbound phone calls. You need to follow up with emails on time. And then when you start to do these things, when you start to bring yourself more in alignment, that's when you begin to become that person. So it's not as simple as just, I want to make more money, so therefore I'm just going to do things differently. No, you have to create that new identity and give it a label, give it characteristics, give it values, give it things that it needs to do, and then start to bring yourself in alignment. So bring yourself closer to that. And that's something that you should do now. No matter where you are, at what point in your journey you are, you should be doing that. I've got myself, I've got things for myself now that I want to bring myself into alignment with. It doesn't have to be about business. It can be about health. So I've got a new health identity that I kind of want to bring myself into alignment with. I want to get fitter, because if I'm fitter, I'm able to work better. I'm able to have better mental clarity. I'm able to have better vitality. So I've got more longevity for the people that I love, for the people that I employ. And so I think that's like the next thing. When you've achieved a bit of success in the business, you just want to look back onto yourself and be like, how can I improve myself so that this can all flow through me into all the people that I care about and all the people that work with me, etc. So no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, you can create a new identity that you can bring yourself a bit closer to. So think about how you can do that now. It doesn't have to be business. It can be health, it can be relationships, it can be whatever. But if you're struggling in the business right now, it's because you're not living in alignment with your ideal self. So think about that. And when you create that new identity, just think about what that person does, how they behave, what they do, and what they need to do in order to stay there. And that's when you can kind of reverse engineer what you're doing at the moment. And it's going to involve doing some uncomfortable stuff. So you might need to drop a client a week to give yourself more time to work on the business. But that's going to pay off in the long run. Right? So that's something that we really need to think about. And yeah, that's just another thing that I wanted to add in, kind of on the topic of what we talked about first. And a book I'm reading at the moment as well, which I wanted to share, is the Checklist Manifesto. If you've watched me a lot, you might see that I talk about checklists a fair bit. And so when I saw this book pop up, I just had to get it, because who would have thought there'd be a whole book on the topic of making checklists, making to-do lists? But there is, and it's a good book. I'm not that far into it, so I won't go too in-depth about it, but yeah, it's a good book. And it's really showing me the importance of a checklist, and it's reinforcing and validating my idea behind it. But, checklists are really, really good. In business, they are a lifesaver. I use a checklist for, like I have a daily checklist, I have a weekly checklist, I got a monthly checklist. And you know what a checklist does? It keeps you in check. So like sometimes I forget things, and my checklist is what I refer back to keep me on track. My checklist tells me, every day I've got to send out my invoices. I've got to record a podcast every week. For Booked Out Cleaners, I've got to get this content done by this date, and then I've got to record the training videos on this date. I've got my weekly calls, so I can't miss those. If I've got like a quote, it's on my to-do list. If I need to buy stock for the business, it goes on the checklist. And then when you're training people, checklists are always something that you need to refer back to. So it's a good book you should pick up. It's worth a read. And if you're not using checklists or to-do lists as much as you think you should, then you're probably right. So you should do that. And a great tool that I use is called Microsoft To Do. So that's just To Do. Really good little app. It's what I use for all my to-do lists, like shopping, even just my everyday Woolies shopping. I use it for the business. I use it for planning out my days. I do it for planning out my work week, and everything that could possibly need a checklist or a to-do list, I use Microsoft To Do, and it's free. So it's really good. It also hooks into your Outlook if you use Outlook and your Microsoft calendar. So yeah, really handy tool to have. And that's just another thing that, I love to read books as much as I don't really get much time for it these days because I'm so focused on other things, but I try to read at least one book every month or two just to kind of keep my saw sharp, just to keep my mind active, to keep learning about new things. So that is a good book. I'm not that far through it, but it's a good book. What else can we talk about? I'm liking these longer episodes. I really don't mind talking for a long time, if you haven't noticed by now. Vacuums. Maybe we should talk about vacuums. We have a lot of different vacuums in the business, and something that we've trialed recently is the new PakVac Velos, which I am very, very surprised by. They are really good little vacuums. So right now, I think the Velo is the backpack one, if I'm not mistaken. Stacey handles all this, so I'm not really that on top of it, but I know about it. So with PakVac, you've got your Super Pro, which is the backpack, and you've got the Glide, which is the pull-along. Now, the Super Pro is my favorite. I love backpack vacuums. It's just, it's a little bit heavy. So a lot of our female staff, especially a lot of the younger ones that are not as strong, they complain about how heavy the backpack one is. And so we tried the Velo, and wow, that thing is light. I think it's like 3 kilos, and it feels like nothing. And so we've been giving that to some of the girls who can't handle the weight of a regular PakVac, so the Super Pros, and they're saying the same thing. It's like, they're like, Stace, this feels like it's nothing. It feels weightless on my back. And the suction's still great. The price is still relatively the same as the regular Super Pro, so we're really happy with that. And we're also looking at cordless vacuums. So if you've ever been wondering about that, we've now given it a go. We bought I think it was a $2,000 Makita vacuum. So it's a cordless, battery-powered Makita vacuum, a backpack one. I think I paid between $1,500 and $2,000 for it, for this one particular employee. She actually found it. She's one of those employees that always just tries to make her cleaning better. So she's always looking for new solutions and new products and things that she can use, and she will run it by us. But anyway, she found this. I thought it would be a cool thing to try, so I paid for it for her. And yeah, she loves it. It's a really cool vacuum. She's got like a remote control for it and everything. But I tried it on myself, and like, again, it just feels like nothing. You'd think that it would weigh more because it has a massive lithium battery in it, but no, it's really, really good. And time-wise, it does last quite a while as well. So she was telling me that on the highest setting, which you don't even need to use, it'll last about 25 to 30 minutes. But the vacuum came with 3 batteries, so even on the highest setting, which you don't really need, you'd probably just use it for carpet, you could use that for over an hour. nearly an hour and a half. But on the middle setting, which is what you would use just for everything else, just for everyday vacuuming, it lasts 45 minutes. So there you've got over 2 hours worth of vacuuming just in those batteries. So that gets her through the day, and then she goes home, recharges them because they're all detachable batteries, obviously, and then she's ready for the next day. And she doesn't have to worry about cords, stepping on the cords breaking. The backpack's not heavy, so she loves it, and it's really cool. I want to get a cordless backpack vacuum for myself now, so I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to look at doing that. It is a bit bigger of an investment, but I think it's very much worth it because, like I said, you pay with time or money. That extra couple of $100 in a backpack vacuum could save you 10 minutes at every house, and that adds up. So, it all ties back to these little principles, right? And it doesn't have to just be specific to you or the business. It can be little things like that. So, yeah, that's really cool. I love those new cordless vacuums. Technology is coming such a long way. It's going to be great when we can get lithium batteries cheaper, when they can decrease the price to make these lithium batteries, because they are the savior to a lot of things. Like we're seeing electric vehicles, they run off lithium. If they can get the production cost of lithium batteries down, it's going to be a very, very viable source of energy. The only thing is, I don't think they can be recycled. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but yeah, it could be potentially polluting the environment. I don't know. I'm not too educated there, so I won't speak on it. But yeah, something else I had observed from just watching some of our trainers while they train other employees is that they kind of take it upon themselves to do things outside of the scope of the training checklist, which really benefit the trainee. And so Stacey, from day one, I never asked her to do this, but she's always shown trainees how to stretch properly and how to take care of their bodies while they clean. And it's something I never thought of doing because, it's just never something that occurred to me. Like, we should be stretching and doing these different techniques like lunging to get underneath things instead of bending over or getting down low. But from day one, she's always done that. And so we're now implementing this in our training program for everyone. And I think it's just such a great thing when you get someone on board and they have the same passion and the same vision for the business as you, and they want to find ways to make it better. So even that employee who went out of her way to find that vacuum, you're like, that's something I really value, just people like that. And so even with Stacey, yeah, she's done great for the training program, and it's something that is really, really amazing for a couple of reasons. So, teaching the employees how to stretch and how to move their bodies and different techniques they can use while they're cleaning is really, really helping them with their vitality, with their health. It's helping them prevent injury and strain on their bodies while they do what is, it's a very physically demanding job sometimes. So I love that she's done that. And it's also showing the employees that we really care about them. So when they're getting their training and all of a sudden Stacey's like, or one of the trainers is like, oh, let's do some stretching now. Let's just take care of our bodies. They're immediately thinking like, oh, wow, these people actually care about me. I'm not just here to do work and then go home. These people actually care about me as a human being, and they're helping me take care of myself and showing me things I can do to make sure my body stays okay. So I love that. Even I was watching one of the other trainers showing a trainee around, and the trainee was vacuuming, and they were going to vacuum underneath a couch, and so they bent down a little bit so they could get underneath it, and the trainer instantly corrected them, and they're like, no, lunge. Don't bend over. That's bad for your back. We want to lunge like this. And she showed them, and I was just like, wow, I love this. And this had nothing to do with me. So it's really amazing when you bring people into the business who create a positive impact and change that you didn't even do. That's when the business starts to really become a business and grows with other people. So I love that. And it's something that you should think about doing with employees if you have them, is that you should implement like a stretching routine, show them different techniques they can use when they clean to preserve their bodies, more ergonomic things they can be doing while they vacuum and mop, that sort of thing. So that's really, really cool. And I love that Stacey's done that. And again, it's something I can take no credit for. So yeah. Now, another thing I wanted to kind of touch on is something I see pop up from time to time in relation to employees, and that's vehicles. So the question is, should I be buying vehicles for the business or continue using employees' cars and just paying a travel reimbursement? Now, the short answer is maths. Just like anything, it's mathematics. You need to work out the numbers, and at a certain point, and we're going to talk about that, it is actually better to buy vehicles for a few reasons. Now, I've got a lot of employees. I've got over 30, and I'm now thinking about buying some vehicles because at the moment we pay, I think between $1,500 and $2,000 a week in fuel reimbursements alone. So the ATO award in 2024 from the 24 to 25 financial year is, I believe, 99 cents per kilometre that an employee travels if they use their car to travel to and from work. So if someone travels 50 kilometres in a day, which isn't too crazy, that's almost $50, and that adds up. If you get a lease on a relatively small car, that lease may only be $50 a week. Or if you finance a car, if you buy a car and you finance it, you may only pay $400 a month. And that becomes an asset in the business, which adds more value to the business. So when you have a large team like I do, you start to get to that point where you're like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money on fuel reimbursements. It's probably worthwhile I just invest in a few vehicles, because that money we pay in fuel reimbursements every week, that $1,500 to $2,000, that's just going right down the drain. We will never see that money again. It does nothing for the business. It's just money that comes and goes. Whereas if we had some vehicles and we give staff cars they can use instead of using their own, we're still spending that money, but that money is going back to the business because we're putting equity into assets. Cars are assets, they add to the value of your business. If you sell a business one day and you've got no vehicles, it's worth a certain amount of money. If you've got the same business, but you've got 10 vehicles fully paid off, that could add an extra $100,000 to $200,000 to the value of the business. So the answer is you should actually have a look at this. If you've got a team of staff where you're paying a fair bit in travel reimbursements, you should think about doing this. You should have a look at the numbers, have a talk with your accountant. They're not going to do this for you without you asking, but just talk about it with them, weigh up options, look at the numbers, obviously, that's what the accountant's there for, and then think about what your outgoings are in terms of the travel reimbursement, the travel side of things. And you could potentially buy yourself one or two vehicles and just put them on finance. It could be $200 a month, $300 a month, whatever it may be. But then over time, you pay those off and those become assets. And you can even sell them later on and make a nice amount of money. So that's something worth looking at. It's something that we're going to be doing. At the very least, I'm going to be getting something for Stacey, our manager, so she can ride around in something with the business branding on as well. So that's step one. And then we're going to work backwards and think about how we can give staff cars, what sort of cars we would give them. So maybe like a mini hatchback, like a Kia Rio or Toyota Corolla, that sort of thing. They can be really cheap cars. You can get them for like 10 grand, depending on the year and the model. So a bunch of those would be cool. And the repayments would be next to nothing. And yeah, and then thinking about how much it would cost, thinking about the viability of it, thinking about where the cars would be stored. Would the cleaners just take them home and use them? And, then that presents the issue of fringe benefits tax. So that's another thing that you need to think about. Or would they just get stored at your facility overnight until the next day they come in and need to use them for work? So, lots of different things to weigh up. But the answer is you should actually have a look into it. It is not a bad idea. I used to write it off as being like, I don't want overheads. I don't want to have to complicate the business by buying these sort of things. But it gets to a point where you spend so much money on something that you could just be putting back into the business. Instead of paying employees fuel reimbursements, you just invest in vehicles. And you could even just cut your spending in half. Not your spending, but just where the money goes. So you could do, if you're doing $2,000 a week in fuel reimbursements, you can just buy like 3 vehicles, and the repayments on that could be $1,000 a week, whatever it is, or maybe 4 vehicles for $1,000 a week. Even that's a lot of money. You could probably get like 6 cars for $1,000 a week. Anyway, so you get 6 cars for $1,000 a week. Give those to 6 employees or whatever you want to do, and then with the other $1,000 a week in spend, you can still have a lot of employees use their own cars and just pay them fuel reimbursements. But slowly, you start to build up those assets in the business and create more value for the value of the business. So yeah, definitely something worth looking into. I would suggest having a chat with your accountant to go over the numbers and the logistics of all that to figure out if it could be viable for you. But it's not a bad idea, right? It's probably not something that you've ever thought of, but now that I've kind of given you a look at how that works, maybe it could work for you. So yeah, definitely worth chatting to the accountant about. It won't hurt. All right, I think we'll start to wrap this episode up because I'm having a busy day today. It's what is it? It's 6 a.m. I was going to record this yesterday, but I got really caught up, so I just figured I'd do it this morning, get it over and done with. I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and I've talked about them, so I'm happy. And it's a decently long episode this time. I'm still trying to lock down some interviews and some chats on the podcast. So if you have people that you'd like to see me talk to, please send me a message and let me know, or even just message them and say, hey, you should do the Self-Made podcast with this guy. And then they're going to be like, who the hell's that? And that's when you have to be like, no, he's all right. You should give it a go, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, message me some names of people you'd like to see on here, because I will try my best to get anyone. It doesn't have to be someone in the cleaning industry. It can be, I could we talked about stretching in this podcast. I could have like a massage therapist come in. I could have a physio on the podcast. I know a few physios that would probably do it. So yeah, that would be really, really cool. It's something I'm still trying to do. I'm just trying to figure out first logistically how to do it, how to record a 2-person podcast over like Zoom or something. But that'll be easy. I'm hoping. And then just trying to lock people down because everyone's so busy. People who are worth talking to are usually quite busy. I'm starting to notice. But yeah, it would really help me out if you could send through some names and maybe even message other creators and notable people that you know and just name drop the podcast and ask if they might be interested in doing it, and I'll try to get them on board. In other news, we've got Booked Out Cleaners, some new courses coming out soon. We've got the hiring module. The very first hiring module is coming out in about 10 days, so that's something to look forward to. It's going to be jam-packed with all my best hiring knowledge, all my best processes for it, and it's going to be very, very valuable to everyone, to people who are just starting out and to people who have existing teams. So that's one of my strong suits, and I'm really excited to launch that course. So if you are interested in joining Booked Out Cleaners, now is definitely still a good time. The price will be going up once we've got a few new courses in there. So if you join now, you'll be at an advantage. And remember, you either pay with money or you pay with time. So pick your poison, everyone. And we'll wrap this episode up here. There's nothing else I want to go on a rant about or get out of my system. So I think we've done well today. I hope you're having a good day or night. Hope the business is going well. Hope you're crushing it. And if not, just remember, like I said before, you are the catalyst for your own change. So be that. And, just keep listening to these podcasts, keep reading books on business, keep listening to other podcasts on the topic of business. Doesn't even have to be cleaning. You could listen to a marketing podcast. I listen to a few myself. It doesn't hurt to keep learning. In fact, it is the complete opposite. It really helps you if you just keep learning new things, if you keep listening to the same thing on a particular topic, just to really hone in your focus and your skill. You can even reread the same book. Like I read the same book every couple of months just to refresh my knowledge of it and engrave it into my brain. So yeah, do that. Keep your saw sharpened, and I will talk to you in the next episode of Self-Made. And hopefully by then we've got some guests that we can line up, and that'll be really exciting. But yeah, for me, it's back to business as usual. I'm going to be still onboarding our new big industrial cleaning client, which is exciting. I'm really happy that we've got this. And again, it's something that we manifested. It's something that we had a plan for. We executed on it, and we got it. So yeah, really exciting stuff. But we'll leave it here. And as always, there'll be a new episode next week and the week after that, and hopefully every week after that until I die. So I think I've done enough podcasts now for me to safely say that this is not going anywhere. You know, we're almost at like 40 episodes. We may even be kind of on the brink of it right now. So I don't think this podcast is going anywhere fast. So yeah, stick around. It's going to get better and better, just like anything. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.